Hey everybody, David Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Luke Fletcher. He founded Raw Accounting 10 months ago. Yes, you heard that right, 10 months ago, and he's grown the practice to over 70 clients in the middle of the pandemic. Now he specializes on tax-led support for SMEs, and they deliver what they call fuss-free, friendly approach for businesses and their owners. Luke's an ICAEW chartered accountant and passionate small business owner himself. Today, we're going to really talk about what happened in these 10 months that Luke was able to discover what I would call kind of service market fit for what he was offering. We're going to talk about what resonated so well, what those initial acquisition channels are, and what he feels is the next step for him as he's grown so quickly. So Luke, first and foremost, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to ask, what happened 10 months and one day ago that you said, hey, now's the time to start a firm?
I think for me, I was kind of following that normal accountancy trajectory, that partnership, and that being the kind of, the thing that everyone aims to. And I sat there and I thought, is this really what I want? Is this where I see myself going and what I want to do? Because as you know, once you go into that partnership route, it's quite difficult to unpick. And I sat down with myself, honestly, and over a period of a couple of weeks and months, I just decided it wasn't going to be right for me. So that was when I decided, actually, do you know what I want? I want to set up my own firm. I want to put my own little stamp on it and run my own business, which is exactly what I did.
Yeah. So day one, did you bring over any clients? Did you buy clients from other firm, or was it really 0, 0, 0 clients?
It was 0, 0, 0 clients. So like lots of people in that situation, I had a non-compete and all that good stuff. So it was 0 clients, and inevitably there's that kind of, I need to get to work, but also I was always right from the off really keen to make sure the right systems are in place, and that as we scaled and grew, we were going to be able to continue to deliver the right service.
Yeah. And so what's current team size right now, by the way? And we're going to dig into actually how you acquire those clients, but tell us a little bit. So you have 70 clients, how many employees, how many team members?
So at the moment it is just myself, and then I have one part-time person who is exclusively just supports with the payroll. But other than that, it's me doing servicing the 70 clients at this stage.
Got it. Well, I have to ask, how many hours a week are you working now, now that you've grown so quickly?
I think at the moment my hours are still manageable. Don't get me wrong. During working hours, I work pretty hard and I keep my head down. There are times we've just had busy season here, so tax return deadlines in the UK are the 31st of January. So it's been a busy slog through January, but I'm still kind of managing my hours reasonably well. Probably well below the US average of working hours in a week anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, great. Well, so it's day one. You need to get clients. You need to fund this business. You need to fund your life. What do you do? I mean, how do you go about what is the steps you took to start landing your first, 3 or 5 clients?
Okay, so the very first step I took was I told everyone I knew, from kind of personal connections, previous network connections, and it is amazing when you start going out and you tell people, look, I'm doing this. Just wanted to share it, just wanted to keep you up to date with what I'm doing at the moment. It's amazing the number of people who come out and say, yeah, actually, I'll move my accounts over to you. You can help with that. So that was the kind of very first thing I did.
Is this email? Are you calling people? Are you texting them? And what are you saying? You're saying I opened up a shop, or are you saying I opened up a shop for this type of business? Or like, walk us through some of the tactical elements of that.
I think for me, a big element of, and certainly where a lot of my network has always been, is on LinkedIn. So I use LinkedIn to kind of publish what I'm doing. Day one, I was on LinkedIn. I was on the various other social channels saying, look, this is what I'm doing. But certainly, I think for me, the kind of pickup, and just because that's really where my kind of connections and followings are, is over on LinkedIn. That got the biggest kind of traction. That got the traction that people were kind of interested, liking, sharing, and all that good stuff, dropping me a few messages through LinkedIn, and then it all kind of flows from there. And don't get me wrong, you've also got those just those personal connections that we all have, friends and family and all that good stuff. And people talk, and all of a sudden it may be a friend of a friend, but they're getting in touch because actually they've got a small business and they need support with it.
Did you, when you made that LinkedIn post, did you specify your clients, or did you just say, hey, I'm launching this firm and, really excited? Or were you kind of at the forefront of finding a niche, or were you kind of just open to any opportunity to help fund the business?
Okay, so if I'm honest, I would say I've been fairly broad in my approach.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of kind of, some very different schools of thought, but when you have zero clients, and obviously with zero clients comes zero income, and I've got a mortgage to pay and all that good stuff, then you kind of sit there and say, actually, if someone is looking for support and I'm able to provide it, then I'm going to provide it.
Yeah.
And yes, over time we'll refine that and we'll shape that into kind of what I see as really what's going to be our bread and butter. But at that initial stage, it was if you need some support with some accounting or tax, and I've got the skills to do it, then I'm going to help you achieve that.
Awesome. So month one, you made this LinkedIn post. How many clients did you get?
Month one, I think that it was one client, but a significant sized business. So that was quite important. There's kind of a complete mix of what falls into the category of SME, and for me, we're potentially talking right up to kind of what in this country requires an audit, which is below 10 million. So nothing below 10 million requires an audit in this country, and really all of those types of businesses are small and medium sized, typically family run, typically owner managed. And so the tax implications, the accounting implications, they're very, very similar. I think our kind of core client size now is probably just around kind of a million turnover, that sort of size, either side slightly, but that tends to be kind of where our core clients fit. But month one, there was one client that came on board, and moving forward as the months kind of progressed, I remember month two and month three, it is a hard slog. You're out there, I mean, to coin the phrase, you're banging the drum, and I would say that I continue to do that through LinkedIn.
Okay.
And that was and that has been a really good source of business for me. It's not just about kind of the post that you're putting out, but it's about building that connection, those connections with people. It's about just commenting, sharing, engaging with the community. And I guess that's an element of kind of what LinkedIn or any of those platforms is about. It's about the community. If you're just doing it for your own kind of purpose, then typically it becomes, people start to see through it quite quickly, I think. Whereas actually, if you're kind of there and you are engaging, then people engage with you, and you all kind of get to like and share and get to know one another, really, albeit through a virtual means.
Got it. So just to unpack this a little bit more, I mean, your strategy on LinkedIn wasn't purely push with a post. It was a lot of you've built up this network over time. They're obviously posting things about their job, about their business, about whatever, news articles. You're commenting on them, you're sharing them, you're saying, hey, good job, or adding an additional tip there. On the push front of things, when you're posting, I mean, just to help quantify the audience for a little bit, how many times are you actually posting something on LinkedIn versus commenting, sharing, like in a given week or given month?
Okay, so I would never do more than one post per day. And typically I would say that on average, I was posting maybe 3 to 4 times per week. I think it has to be sustainable. It's all well and good, and people will always talk about, well, how do I grow my business and how do I get the word out there? And there's loads of different strategies. There's, you can go down the content marketing strategy, you can use social media, you can use paid ads, whatever you want to use. But I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it consistently, and it's that consistency that really builds the traction. So I would say that something else I was doing outside of LinkedIn was some kind of content marketing, purely around blogs on the website. But even now, some of those blogs that I wrote in the early days, when don't get me wrong, I launched a new website, a website that it takes Google a few months to pick up. So you know that you're not going to get any real traction coming through there. So part of it is on the LinkedIn side, you're posting and you're linking back to your website, and people are then going to the website. They're maybe hitting the blogs and they're reading some of the content on there. But also part of it was to say, actually, we want to share some useful content on these blogs so that, well, Google thinks, hey, look, this is useful. Someone might be interested in this, but also so that, to be brutally honest, we start to rank. You know, and if someone types in a particular keyword or a particular phrase, we're going to come up. So there's some things we did around kind of local, and then there's also some blogs on there which still to this day, and that is the amazing thing about content and blogs. You do it once, but they serve you, and yes, they need refreshing and things like that, and you should look at them and say, are these still relevant? Can we tweak this? Can we update it? But a blog will serve you for years and years and years to come. So even now, 10 months on, one of the blogs I wrote, I think in maybe month 2, is consistently our highest ranking page on the website.
So what kind of content is this around? Tax filing deadlines, or these tax strategies, or what kind of content you're putting out there to get
a lot of so my background is I used to work in one of the large accounting firms on the tax side. So with that experience and with that background, a lot of my support tends to be quite tax led. So we can do all the accounting, you know, and we can do, you know, the statutory stuff, the filings, etc. But also, I always felt there was a need for small business owners to get tax-led advice and tax-led support, because that really is where they're kind of crying out and saying, look, I don't know what my liabilities are going to be. I don't know how to reduce them. I don't know if there's any options or things that I could be doing or thinking about. So the content we were putting out on the blogs was primarily on kind of tax. And actually the one I mentioned that ranks very highly was all around what a director can do to kind of maximize their pension contributions and do that in the most tax efficient way here in the UK.
Got it. Well, so to dig back into LinkedIn a little bit, for somebody, you know, just to unpack this a little bit more, because be quite honest with you, we all believe in LinkedIn, but we don't hear the networking benefits as much, to be honest. And so I'm wondering, is it the value of your network plus the way that you've communicated? Like, what do you think is your, magic sauce here? You mentioned consistency, which is absolutely important, but where do you think most people get it wrong with LinkedIn? Are they just not investing enough time? Or do they not know how to network, through it? Like, what are the blockers?
I think it ultimately comes down to kind of being authentic. If you're commenting, well, okay, there's a few things here. If you're commenting on someone's post and you're genuinely interested, you may be engaging, you're asking a question, they're maybe responding. The first thing I would say is LinkedIn will quite often post the top comment, the kind of top rated comment that it thinks or its algorithm thinks is a good comment. That means that if you're posting on someone who's got 20,000 followers and you've engaged in that, and that means everyone who's then seeing that post is potentially also seeing your comment right below it. Well, I think we're all silly if we think that no one sits there and doesn't click on the person who's commented thinking, who's this guy? So there's that. And as I said, it needs to be authentic and it needs to be kind of a real conversation. But certainly kind of algorithms look at that and say, okay, well, this might be interesting. And also I think that it just helps generally with your own posts. If you're just kind of churning out your own stuff, it's maybe getting a bit of engagement, it's maybe getting a couple of likes, but you're not really doing a huge amount else. I think, I don't know, no one knows the algorithm, I'm not an expert at all, but I think that for me, there seems to be some logic in commenting and liking and sharing on other people's stuff, in turn kind of supports your own posts and maybe means you appear in someone's feed when you might not otherwise. So I think that's something that certainly I've seen and tends to work quite well.
Got it. I want to switch gears into pricing here in a little bit, but just confirm. So 0 to 70, 10 months. You announced it early on, you had some early hand raisers, got your first couple of clients through that. And then you've consistently been engaged on LinkedIn, as well as pairing that with your content marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Were those the two main drivers of your client acquisition in 10 months?
Yes, I would say so. I did some kind of direct marketing as well. So that was more kind of direct outreach. And again, LinkedIn can be a good source of that. So it's not just necessarily, don't just necessarily kind of passively do it. Think actually, there are people out there who right now they're thinking, I'm not really sure I'm getting the right service from my accountant. We've all been there we've all seen how recruiters used to use LinkedIn. And lo and behold, a recruiter would send a post, and they're doing that to maybe hundreds of people on a daily basis. Most of them aren't landing. Most people are happy, they're happy. Then one, bam, it lands. It comes in their inbox and actually they think, do you know what? Actually, I will have a conversation with this recruiter. The same is true, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sending hundreds of LinkedIn requests every day, but I think that where you're targeted, and actually for me, I was looking at kind of local businesses, maybe businesses where we had lots of shared connections, or I knew, I'd met them at kind of face to face in a networking event, but we're not connected yet on LinkedIn. You think, well, let's connect, let's start to have a little conversation. Next thing, maybe we're having a Teams call or a Zoom call, and all of a sudden, A, they now know who you are, and B, they might actually be interested in changing their accountant. Or as soon as they have a problem and they think actually now's the time to switch, they're interested in and you're the one they contact.
Yeah, great. Well, and it may not be overly scientific at this point, but for your 70 clients, I mean, how many prospects, how many sales calls did you have to get those 70 clients?
Actually picking up the phone and making sales calls?
No, not picking up the phone and making sales calls, but people that say they reached out, they say, hey, I'd like to learn more. And, you got on a Teams, you got on a Zoom, and they ended up converting and becoming a client because, paying you. What was the conversion rate on that?
So I think that there's, I couldn't tell you the number of, messages and kind of email conversations, but what I would say is when you get someone face to face, and you get, face to face, I mean, we live in a virtual world, but when you get someone on Teams or on Zoom and you have a conversation and you have a genuine interest in their business, probably more of an interest and kind of, I would say that we ask quite broad reaching kind of questions about their business and what their intentions are and where they want to go. That is usually, certainly in this country, a lot more than what their current accountant's asking. Typically they're getting, here, this is what you need to do, these are your compliance, maybe some filing of accounts shortly before the deadline. That still tends to be the norm. So actually when you sit there and you say, look, I just want to have a chat with you about your business, I have found that conversions tend to be pretty high, because it's all a lot of what we do, certainly from the compliance angle, is kind of bread and butter. We're certainly, if you're regulated and you're a chartered accountant like I am, then you should be able to do the work. So then it comes down to kind of that interpersonal side, building that relationship, and really being able to talk to your clients. And what I would say is that I pick up the phone to my clients when I have no reason to. I'll call them, they might be on quarterly VAT filings over here, but I'll call them on a monthly basis and say, look, how are things going? What are your pain points? Do you have any concerns? A number of times you ring a client and they say, oh, actually, I was thinking about doing this. And what happens if I hadn't made that call? They probably wouldn't have reached out. They might have, but on the whole, they probably would have just thought, oh, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I can do that, or what the rules are, or whether there's anything I need to think about. And just by that 10-minute conversation, you start to build that relationship.
So let's say you got on a Zoom, you got on a team, is that like 30% or 70% or like 90% of people end up becoming clients once you have that genuine kind of authentic conversation?
I would probably say that once on Zoom we've had that real conversation, I would say more than 80%.
Okay.
Became clients. The ones that didn't, if I'm honest with myself, looking back, they were probably never going to become a client, because we're quite kind of transparent with fees and things like that, and we put some indicative pricing on the website, because for me there is a complete range of what people, what support people are looking for, and I have had approaches where they want they want the service, the kind of full service, the tax-led advice, all of that stuff. But actually they sit there and they're only willing to pay for the compliance, really. Ultimately, that's their kind of marker in terms of what they want to spend hasn't changed. So if I'm honest, the ones that didn't come on board, I think that I probably should have identified them earlier, on that kind of just initial telephone call before we'd got onto a Zoom and we'd had a half-hour conversation. But we live and learn, and now I have made lots of mistakes as you go through this process. So, like every small business owner.
So what's the average client paying you today? You said you're pretty transparent with the fees. So what's the average, monthly or yearly? And I know there's a broad range here. So if you want to give the range, that's fine, or the average, whatever is most applicable to you.
I would say pretty much all our fees are 250 plus per month. So £250 plus per month. Our largest clients go up to about 1,500 on a monthly basis. So there is a complete range. It's purely based on kind of the nature of the support they need and the role we're playing. For a couple of our largest clients, essentially I'm an out of office FD. I'm not physically sitting there with them every day, but we're providing management reporting. We're doing all the compliance as a matter of course, but we're providing reporting. I'm having those conversations, and we're kind of really focused on kind of budgets and strategy and where their business is heading as well.
Great. So you say FD, that's financial director, just on that?
Yeah, correct. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you've grown quite quickly. It's been 10 months. I'm assuming this has been a bit faster than you had anticipated, although I don't know what your goals were for month 10. What's next for you? What's the next frontier? What's the next challenge? What are you thinking about next?
I think the challenge I'm experiencing at the moment is, whereas in those early days I could spend all the time on kind of growing the business and marketing, and I could service the clients quite happily and still have lots of time left to do that. The challenge for me now is increasingly my time is fully occupied servicing the clients, which is fine and I'm happy with, but I think the intention is to continue to grow this business, and I know that at the moment the only way that I'm going to do that without making a change is to significantly effectively to work well over the hours which I would ideally like to work. So it kind of comes down to getting some support and hiring, and that opens some big questions, because actually I provide my services essentially virtually, as we've touched on lots here. There's lots of kind of Zoom and Teams conversations. Yes, I go and see clients from time to time, and most of my clients at the moment, a couple aren't, but most of my clients at the moment tend to be fairly local. That people have also just found us through local SEO and Google and stuff like that. So it's a challenge is to say, well, do we stay virtual and do we recruit and do that thing and make that work and work out what that looks like in the kind of virtual world, or do we go for the kind of more traditional fixed office space, get people in, go through the kind of training and support, and I think for me, it's exactly the same with the business. It's a very kind of personal, approachable service. If you look at our reviews on Google, the one word you'll see pretty much on all of them is approachable and friendly. And I don't see why, as kind of business owners and providing services to clients, we shouldn't all be approachable and friendly. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I think with finance, it's all kind of hidden behind jargon and language that clients don't really understand, and I make it as clear as I possibly can, and I do try to be as approachable to my clients as I possibly can be. So I would want exactly the same for recruiting and hiring and people coming in, and that kind of I guess culture really within the business. And that to me, that's a challenge to do it remotely, to build that team and to build those relationships. But also, I think that we are in a world where increasingly that's something that people expect. So it's not something I've ironed out at the moment, and we'll see where we kind of end up with it. But certainly that's in the next kind of quarter, that's going to be start to become a real sticking point.
Yeah, I love it. And look, and if somebody's listening right now and you feel like you've learned something about what Luke's about to go through, please reach out to him, please connect with him, share some lessons, or even better, if you really feel like you've cracked the code, come on the podcast, we could talk about it as well. But Luke, this has been a real treat. If somebody wants to reach out, learn more about your business, say thank you for coming on, or share, tips around whether it's the hybrid or virtual path you go down, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
I think best way probably we've talked about is for people to connect with me on LinkedIn. So if you search Luke J. Fletcher, I should come up on Google, and you can find me that way. But it's Luke J. Fletcher on LinkedIn. And otherwise, you can go over to the website, which is rawaccounting.co.uk. Raw spelled R-A-W, not like a lion. And and we can connect that way, and you can contact us through there.
Wonderful. Sounds great. And if you enjoyed this interview, you want to help us get the word out, please leave a review. If you missed anything that Luke talked about today, it's all going to be at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll do a full write-up. We're going to link it up. We're going to link up his LinkedIn, everything else he mentioned here today. If you really enjoyed this interview, if you know a fellow firm owner that is maybe struggling to get traction, to get client growth, is struggling to figure out LinkedIn, share this with a fellow firm owner who needed to hear it. Luke, thanks so much for coming on.
Perfect. Many thanks, David.